So when you start out on a goal or a path toward a goal, you might be thinking about that whole path, and we talked a little bit about this in the goal setting process, so you can always go back and watch that video. But one thing you really need to focus on is actually focusing on today. And I heard this during a conversation on Mind Pump, the podcast, so if you're ever looking for a good podcast, that's one to listen to. And they were talking about physique prep, so for bodybuilders. And you might not have any interest in bodybuilding, and that's fine, but this was a really interesting piece when it came down to eating a certain way. They had to eat a certain way to achieve the physique they were looking to achieve on stage. And instead of focusing on the length of that process and getting overwhelmed by months of preparation, they focused on, let's see how we can do today. Can we achieve our goal for one day, and that day being today, not tomorrow, today. And if they achieved that, they would make note of it and then progress to day 2. See if they could do it 2 days in a row. And then 3, 4, 5, you name it. And whenever they would have a slip up, instead of getting really emotionally attached to it, having the ups and downs associated with that, they would just make note that, okay, I made it 5 days without a slip up. I'm going to try to beat that record this time and go for 6. And they would continue this process until days turned into months, months turned into whole training cycles, and they're able to achieve their goals. While that applies to their goal of the physique piece when they're using this example, it applies for anything you're doing. So it's one of those things when you set a goal, that's great, you set the pathway, we've talked about that, but don't forget about today. What are you going to do to win the day? Pick something, whatever that is, your fitness, your nutrition, whatever, getting up on time, you're not hitting snooze, all of those topics we've talked about, and focus on just winning the first day. Then if you do that, let's try to run it back for day 2. Whenever a slip-up happens, don't get too emotionally attached to it, make note of it, and then try to beat your previous best.